Hi, this is the video to help you to review the test one. So for the test one, it will cover 3 chapters. So chapter 1 to 4. And just like the syllabus mentioned, so I have 3 types of questions in the test one. I have true or false, multiple choices, or calculation problems, or the short answer. And for true or false and multiple choices, each of them value 1 point, while the problems or the short answer questions may vary. And for the first test, I have 1 short answer for chapter 1 and 1 short answers questions for chapter 2 and 5 calculations questions for the chapter 4. And because it's like in the test is in the test. So the calculation problems will not like the homework you did, like ask you to provide the detailed processes you have. And for the 5 calculation problems over there, I will also give you like the choices, and you just need to based on your result to choose the correct answers here. And for the chapter 1 short answer questions, it comes for the important, or we call it the major concepts in OSCM, which we analyzed in the history part of operation supply chain management. And for the chapter 2 short answer questions, it comes for the competitive priorities. So we have a few competitive priorities, and the questions is related to that part. And for the 5 calculation problems for CPM, 4 of them comes for like the critical path methods. The first model, the first examples we learned is ask you to find the critical path, analyze which activity is the snag activity, and how long as the snag and so on. So which is the longest path, which is means like the critical path. And the last questions here come for like the crashing cost, the crashing time stop, the models, the second models. So this is all the 5 calculation models for the chapter 4. And now let's take a look at all the details for like each chapter, the contents you made to review. So before we take a look at all the contents you need to prepare for the test one, I just have a strategy for you to prepare for the test, which is like you don't have to like read again the textbook. You don't need to have go over all the, I mean, 40 pages of the test one, like the contents it covers. A very efficient way for you to prepare for the test is to review like all the PowerPoint slides for each chapter. So the chapter 1 PowerPoint, chapter 2, chapter 4 PowerPoint slides. And if I didn't mention like the contents on the PowerPoint slides, they will be not any questions related to that part, even it's in the textbook. So that's the reason like I highly recommend you to go over the PowerPoint slides first instead of like to go back to read the whole textbook for all the chapters. And for the chapter 1, I divide it into 4 parts. So the first part we just gave you, I mean, kind of like the big picture of operation supply chain management, because chapter 1 focuses on the overall like kind of like overview about operation supply chain management. So the first thing you need to go over is what's it. So what's operations, what's supply chain, what's operation management, supply chain management. And you don't have to memorize like any definitions, because I don't have any questions like you need to fill the words into the bag. But you need to get a sense about what it is. So you don't have to memorize that, but you need to understand it. If I gave you like the 2 definitions, you probably need to figure out, okay, this sentences describe what operation is. That sentences describe what supply chain is. So this is what you need to do. And the second thing you need to review is about the activities in OSCM. So this is also like we talk about like the kind of like the SCOR model, like we have 5 main activities in the operations and the supply chains. So we have like the plan, delivery, return, and others. So you need to figure out these parts. And the last thing like you need to review for the first part of chapter 1 is to distinguish the goods and services. And the first slide you need to go over is like the chart I gave you, all the 5 aspects I gave you to help you distinguish goods, what good is, what services is. For example, like how about the degree of tangible? So the service is intangible while the goods is tangible, which like you can use it, you can smell, you can touch it. And as well as the customer contact, all the services, they have a really, really high degree of the customer contact. And except for these 2, we also have another 3, like the services cannot be shipped, cannot be stored, and the service delivery is really, really hard to control. So this is the first thing you need to go over, the 5 aspects you can use to distinguish them. And the second is actually come for these slides. So this is what we call the goods services continuum, and it gives you like a few examples for each of them. So for this continuum, 2 things you need to figure out. First, we have 4 categories here. We have pure goods, core services, pure services. And the second thing you need to figure out is take a look with each examples under each category. So I probably have multiple choices problem over there, and I gave you a few examples and asked you to choose like which one is the core goods or which one is the pure goods or maybe services part. So you need to figure out the examples here. Get some things about like the what goods is, what services. And you can see that like actually I marked this part in red because it means like you will say be more than 2 questions here. So at least 2. And the second part you need to review for chapter 1 is the major factors. This part is also related to the short answers, short answer questions. So you need to take a look at that history map I gave you and to figure out like to have a sense about, okay, what are the main important factors like in our operation supply chain, like managers focus on them like even across the time, but some of them like we are still like we are still like regard them as the very important factors we need to consider about, like for example the efficiency, the lean operations, the quality, the e-commerce, the globalization stuffs over there. Okay, so this is the second part. And the third part is about 3 terms related to efficiency. So I gave you what efficiency is, what effectiveness is, and what value is. So you need to go over the definition of these 3 terms. And again, you don't have to memorize them, but you need to get a sense about what efficiency is, what effectiveness is. And the last part you need to go over for chapter 1 is the potential careers in OSCM. And it's also marked in red because I have more than 2 questions. So you need to take a look with all the potential, the job in OSCM, like the project management, the COO, and others, and figure out what they are. So if you forgot like the description for the jobs I list on the slides, this is like the time you may need to go over the textbook and to find more details about that. So otherwise, you don't have to read the textbook again. Okay, so this is all the contents for chapter 1. And let's move to the chapter 2. So for chapter 2, we also have 4 parts. So the first is still kind of big picture. So chapter 2, we focus on strategy. So we focus on operations, supply chain strategies. First, the things you need to figure out is what operation strategy is. So the first snap, I gave you a few sentences to describe it. And then take a look with the competitive advantage. This part is also related to the short answer questions is. And we have like, except for like the contents for the textbook, I also gave you kind of like the table to give you like the different examples for the different competitive advantages. So go over the PowerPoint slides for this part. And once you figure out the competitive priorities or the advantage, so another terms like you need to figure out is about what order winner is, what does mean order qualifier. So what the differences between these two. Then we move to another strategy we call risk strategy. Take a look about like that 2 to 3 slides about what they are and the details about how to mitigation like the risk. And the next strategy is the system strategy. And one of the things you need to figure out is about the triple bottom line, what it is, what are the 3 aspects we care about like for the triple bottom line. And the last thing you need to go over like for chapter 2 is the productivity. So for the productivity, you need to figure out 2 things. First of all, you need to figure out how to calculate it. So the productivity equals to output to inputs. And based on the how to calculate that, we categorize the productivity into 3 different types. So we have partial productivity, multi-factor productivity, and total productivity. This is the second thing you need to figure out. Total productivity means like you consider total outputs to total inputs. Partial means you consider the total outputs to one single input. And multi-factor means like not only one input, but a few. So this is like the total outputs to a few inputs. So if you figure out those 2 things, you will be fine. Like with this part, this is all the contents you need to review for chapter 2. And then we move to chapter 4. For the chapter 4, first of all, still big picture. So you need to figure out the project. The chapter 4, we talks about the project management. So the first thing you need to review is about like what project is, what does mean project management. I still give you like a few sentences to describe these 2 things. And again, you don't have to memorize them, just understand them. And then the second part you need to review for the first, the big picture part is the different structure. So we have pure project, we have functional project, we have matrix projects. You need to figure out 2 things. First, what they are. What does mean a pure project? What does mean a functional project? What does mean matrix project? Second thing, you need to figure out the disadvantages and advantages for each of them. So what the advantage and disadvantage for pure project? What are the advantage, disadvantage for functional? You need to figure them out, then you will be fine. Like with all the questions come for this part. And the next small thing for the big picture is how about the organize? So for the organize, I gave you a few terms like in cause SOW, which means the statement of work. What does mean task? What does mean work page and others? So I have a few terms here like on one slide. So just go over that slide and you will be fine. The second part for chapter 4 talks about manage projects. So we focus on how to use some tools to help us to visualize all the projects. Then we have a better idea about how to do it and how it is. And I give you a few examples. This part, like I give you the Gantt charts and other charts and other tools to help you to figure out, to make your project's visualization and to make a better decision. So this is the second part. And the last part, actually for chapter 4, we also have 4 parts, but we only focus on those 3. So the last part you need to review is the network planning. For the network planning, we actually focus on the CPM. So first of all, what does mean CPM? CPM is kind of a method we call the critical path method. This is the first thing you need to figure out, what does mean CPM? And for the CPM, we learn 2 models. The first models help us to figure out like how to draw the network of a project based on the sequences of the activities in a project. So first of all, you need to figure out how to draw that network. And then once you have that network, you have all the time for each activity, the sequences of activities, then you will be able to figure out the critical path. So you need to figure out what is critical path. And then once you figure out like, okay, from A to B to D to E to F, this is the critical path, you will be able to know like how long you need to finish that project and which activity is the snack activity. And this is for the first models, like what kinds of information you can get. And if you figure out all the things I just mentioned, you will be fine. And the second model is actually a time cost model. So it focuses on the trade-off between timing and the cost, the time you need to spend on that project and the cost. So this is how we calculate the crashing stuffs over there. And once you figure out the second model, you will be fine with all the calculation problems for the chapter 4. And this part is also really similar or relates to the homework you've completed. And in order to help you have a better ideas about these two models, actually, I also paste the PowerPoint slides here. So this is for the first model, example for 4.2, and it gives you all the information here. And based on the information, you will be able to draw the network, and then you will be able to find the critical path as well as which activity is the snack activity, and you will be able to figure out, how long you need to finish this project. So this one actually requires you know how to determine the ES, EF, LS, and LF, which early start, early finish, late start, late finish. And this table gives you like some like the which activities on the critical path, which are not. The activity which is not on the critical path will be the snack activities we call it. Okay, so this is the first model you need to figure out. The second model is the second examples here. So this is talks about the time cost trade-off. And same, like you need to draw the network and then you just like calculate the crash cost, the crash time, the normal cost, the normal time. And you will be able to figure out like what is kind of like the trade-off. If you want to save time, then how much you may need to pay more. And this is kind of like the critical path over there. And if you change something over there, then what is may changed. So this is what we have. Like this is like if we can save 1 day, 2 days, then how much you may need to spend. Okay, so this is the second model you may need to go over. And if you figure out these two models, you will be fine. Okay. And the last few slides on this review PowerPoints, I gave you some example questions. So they are really similar to the questions you may meet in the test. Sometimes you may meet exactly the same questions, but this is kind of like the examples, like what kinds of questions you may meet for the test one. And the question 1 comes for the chapter 1, question 2 comes for the chapter 2, while the last one comes for the chapter 4. And this is actually the calculations. Calculation problems may look like for the chapter 4, so you can say that it's really similar to the multiple choices. And then this question is actually value 2 points. And you can find these PowerPoint slides under module test 1. So whenever like you want to prepare for a test, you want to check the contents in the test 1, please feel free to, download like this PowerPoint slides, open it, and then you can find all the information I just gave to you. Okay.